Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Torrio, and I'm here today to discuss with you a chapter I read in the book Christian Republicanism by Mark Knoll. The main focus of the chapter I chose to read was to discuss and compare and contrast the difference between Christianity and Republicanism of the time of the 1700s through the American Revolution in the United States. The main focus was the ideology and the rhetoric used by the ministers and the politicians in the United States at that time, and how they differed from each other and then slowly began to mesh and become um, more or less the same, as both sides were using similar rhetoric. Very notable ministers during the period were George Whitefield, Gilbert Tennant, and Jonathan Edwards. All these men were orators at a level that very few were able to compare to. Their ability with words was almost unparalleled, and they could really truly manipulate in anything or any crowd that they wanted to. The vocabulary they used for dissonant politics at first was very Christian based, and they focused almost all of their time and energy on eternal matters. Shortly after the 1750s, with the start of the Great Awakening, many revivalists started using words like liberty and faction and virtue um, in their sermons, which was a little uncommon and a little more towards the republicanism side of things. Um, with the war with France starting, the King George's War, people argued that the civil and religious liberties were at risk. Um, Samuel Davies, another very famous minister of the time and another excellent orator, said during a sermon that our religion, our liberty, our property, our lives, and everything sacred to us are in danger. All this was in response, yes, to the King George's War, but he was also referring to this great awakening that was taking place and why it was taking place. As many people were turning more towards worldly possessions and focusing less on Christianity and faith, and more about how they could become more prosperous and wealthy. And during the King George's War, many of the ministers were making a connection between Christianity and the hopes for future liberty as a way to bring the country together. It was their hope of future liberty and virtues that started to bridge the gap between republicanism and Christianity. And eventually, they got to the point where it was simply, Christian republicanism, as Mark Knoll called it. He titled his book. One danger that they faced during that time was the fact that this republicanism, moving to accommodate different democratic views that were being proposed in the country at the time, um, kind of bled over into the religious side as well, where the Republicans were being flexible in order to accommodate the Democrats. They also started seeing a rise in Protestant loyalties, where the Protestants were wavering from their faith and allowing more flexibility in different versions of religions to rise and stuff. And this is definitely something that we still face today. Something we see where church and state are intermixed and together and said to be separate. Also not um, also a common misconception with the Bill of Rights, but still something that's argued frequently. Um, yeah, I hope you enjoyed my post.